Look behind you. Seriously, there's something missing. Every dog has it. Every cat has it. Every monkey uses it every single day. But you don't. Somewhere in your family's history, your ancestors had a tail. Not a tiny one. Not a useless little bump. A real tail made of muscles, vertebrae, nerves, blood vessels, and complete control. Then, it vanished. No one cut it off. No predator ripped it away. Evolution simply erased it. But here's the part almost nobody knows. Your body still remembers it. In fact, before you were born, you actually grew one. Inside your mother's womb. For a few weeks, you looked exactly like every other tailed mammal on Earth. Then something extraordinary happened. Your own body destroyed it. Why? Why would evolution remove something that works so well for millions of other animals? Did losing our tails make us smarter? Did it help us survive? Or did it completely change what it meant to be human? The answer begins more than 25 million years ago, inside a forest that doesn't exist anymore. Imagine waking up in a world where almost every animal you see has a tail. Some use them for balance, some use them to fight, some use them to communicate, others can even grab tree branches with them. For most mammals, a tail isn't an extra feature. It's part of survival. Watch a squirrel leap between branches. Its tail works like an aerial stabilizer. Cats twist theirs while falling. Kangaroos use theirs almost like a fifth leg. Monkeys living high in tropical forests depend on their tails every single day. Some New World monkeys even evolved prehensile tails. Tails so powerful they can hang their entire body weight from a single branch. Imagine having a third arm growing out of your spine. That's basically what those tails became. Which makes one question impossible to ignore. If tails are so incredibly useful, why would evolution ever remove one? Natural selection almost never throws away something valuable. It upgrades, it improves, it modifies. But deleting an entire body part? That's expensive. Evolution only pays that price when keeping the feature becomes even more expensive. Something happened. Something so important that millions of years of successful anatomy suddenly became outdated. And strangely, the answer doesn't start with the tail. It starts with the trees. Around 25 million years ago, our distant ancestors weren't walking across open grasslands. They lived high above the ground. Dense tropical forests covered huge parts of Africa. Life happened in 3 dimensions. Every meal, every escape, every friendship, every danger was somewhere in the branches. Back then, our ancestors looked very different. Smaller, hairier, and equipped with long muscular tails that constantly corrected their balance. Every jump depended on them. A single mistake meant falling several stories onto rocks below. The tail wasn't optional. It was life insurance. But forests never stay the same forever. Over millions of years, Earth's climate slowly changed. Some forests shrank. Others became fragmented. Instead of endless connected trees, large gaps began appearing. Moving through the canopy became harder. Some primates adapted one way, others adapted differently. And somewhere during this enormous environmental shift, one small group of apes started changing in a completely unexpected direction. Not by improving their tails, but by slowly relying on them. Less and less. No one noticed it happening. Generation after generation, the tail became slightly less important. Until eventually, nature asked a brutal question. If this structure isn't helping anymore, why keep building it? And evolution had an answer. The strangest part? Scientists now believe losing our tails may have unlocked something far more valuable. Something that eventually allowed humans to stand upright, walk across continents, and build civilization itself. But first, we need to understand the tiny genetic accident that may have started everything. For a long time, scientists had no idea why humans lost their tails. There were theories, lots of them. Some thought it happened because we started walking upright. Others believed tails simply became unnecessary over time. But in 2024, researchers uncovered something remarkable. They identified a mutation in a gene called TBXT, sometimes called the brachyury gene. that can disrupt tail development during embryonic growth. Experiments in mice showed that introducing a similar genetic change could produce animals with shortened or missing tails. That doesn't mean a single mutation instantly created humans without tails. Evolution almost never works that way. Instead, it suggests something far more interesting. A tiny genetic change may have appeared in one ancient ape. At first, that individual probably looked almost normal. Maybe their tail was a little shorter, maybe slightly weaker, maybe nobody noticed. But if that small change didn't reduce survival, it could spread. Generation after generation, century after century, million after million, until eventually, an entire population no longer had tails at all. It's almost impossible to imagine. One microscopic change inside DNA, reshaping millions of years of anatomy. Every human alive today may carry the legacy of that ancient mutation. But that creates an even bigger mystery. If losing a tail happened by accident, why didn't natural selection remove the mutation? Normally, harmful mutations disappear. This one survived, which means, somehow, losing a tail either wasn't a disadvantage, or it opened the door to something even better. Imagine someone removes one of the most important balancing tools from your body overnight. You'd fall, trip, struggle to climb. Your movements would instantly become less stable. That's exactly the problem our ancestors should have faced. Because tails weren't decorations. They constantly shifted your center of gravity. They acted like moving counterweights, helping animals turn, land safely, and stay balanced. Without one, life should have become much harder. So how did our ancestors survive? The answer wasn't replacing the tail. It was redesigning the entire body. The spine changed. The hips changed. The muscles surrounding the lower back became stronger. The pelvis gradually became broader and more stable. Even the way the brain controlled movement evolved. Instead of depending on a long, flexible tail, our ancestors started balancing with something else. Their entire body, their shoulders, their hips, their legs. Balance stopped coming from behind them and started coming from within them. It was an enormous engineering project written directly into evolution. But every engineering project has trade-offs, and humans paid one that millions of people still experience today: back pain. Here's something almost nobody realizes. Your tail is still there, just not the way you imagine. Place your hand at the very bottom of your spine. That small triangular bone you can feel, that's your coccyx, your tailbone. It consists of several fused vertebrae, the final remaining pieces of an ancient tail. Millions of years ago, those bones stretched far behind the body. Today, they're fused into one small structure, but they aren't useless. Far from it. Several important muscles, ligaments, and parts of your pelvic floor attach directly to the coccyx. Without it, sitting, walking, maintaining bowel control, and supporting internal organs would become much more difficult. Evolution didn't erase the tail completely, it recycled it. Kept the parts that still had value, removed the parts that no longer did. Nature is incredibly efficient. It rarely throws anything away. It simply finds new uses. And perhaps the strangest evidence of our tailed past appears before we're even born. Because every human embryo briefly grows a real tail. And what happens next is one of the most extraordinary transformations inside the human body. Quick question. If evolution suddenly gave humans one ancient feature back, would you choose a tail? Or would you rather have something completely different, like night vision, wings, or the ability to regenerate lost limbs? I'm genuinely curious. Drop your answer below. Because what happens inside the womb might completely change the way you think about your own body. Long before you took your first breath, before your heart fully formed, before your fingers separated, your body quietly revealed a secret. Around the 4th to 6th week of development, every human embryo grows a tail. Not something that merely resembles one, an actual embryonic tail. For a brief moment, it's longer than your developing legs. If you looked at a human embryo beside the embryo of a monkey or another mammal at that stage, telling them apart would be surprisingly difficult. Because evolution doesn't build every species from scratch. It starts with an ancient blueprint. Then it edits, adds, removes, refines. Your embryo is almost like a history book, turning millions of years of evolution into a few weeks of development. Then, something remarkable happens. Specialized cells begin breaking down the tail tissue in a carefully controlled process. The vertebrae fuse, the muscles reorganize, the remaining bones compress into what becomes the coccyx. Your body isn't cutting off the tail, it's remodeling it. Almost as if an architect looked at the original design and said, "We won't be needing this section anymore." Every single human alive has gone through this transformation. Every one of us briefly carried the blueprint of our ancient ancestors. But evolution isn't perfect. Very rarely, a baby is born with what appears to be a tail. Stories like these have fascinated people for centuries. Some believed they were supernatural. Others treated them as myths. Modern medicine tells a different story. Most so-called human tails are extremely rare developmental differences. Many are small soft tissue growths. Some contain fat, connective tissue, blood vessels, and nerves. Most do not contain the fully developed vertebrae and muscles found in the functional tails of monkeys or cats. They aren't a return to our ancient ancestors. Instead, they're reminders that building a human body is an incredibly complex process. Billions of cells, millions of instructions, all working in perfect coordination. And every now and then, one tiny developmental pathway continues a little longer than expected. It's astonishing to think about. The instructions for growing a tail haven't completely disappeared. They're still buried deep inside our biology. Mostly silent, mostly inactive, but never entirely erased. Which raises an even stranger question. If evolution removed our tails, what exactly did we gain in return? Because losing something so useful must have come with an extraordinary reward. Imagine trying to balance on two legs while carrying a heavy muscular tail behind you. Every step, every turn, every movement would require extra energy. Now imagine removing that weight, shifting your center of gravity, strengthening your hips, realigning your spine. Suddenly, walking upright becomes easier. Scientists still debate exactly how much tail loss contributed to bipedal evolution. It's important to remember, we didn't lose our tails because we became human. Instead, tail loss happened much earlier in the ape lineage, long before humans evolved. That means losing the tail wasn't the direct cause of walking upright, but it may have made later changes easier. Evolution doesn't usually happen through one giant leap. It happens through countless small improvements, each making the next one possible. A mutation here, a stronger muscle there, a different pelvis, a more flexible spine. Individually, none of them create a human. Together, over millions of years, they transform an ape into something that eventually walks across every continent, builds cities, flies into space, and wonders why it no longer has a tail. But perhaps the strangest part of this entire story isn't that humans lost their tails. It's that evolution has been doing exactly the same thing to us, over and over again, changing features, keeping some, removing others. Even today, your species is still evolving. And that's where this story takes its final and most surprising turn. It's easy to imagine evolution as something ancient, something that happened to other creatures, long before cities, before history, before us. But that's not true. Evolution never stopped. It simply slowed down enough that you can't watch it happen in a single lifetime. Every generation, tiny genetic variations appear. Most disappear forever. Some quietly spread. And once in a while, one changes the future of an entire species. That's exactly what happened with our tails. No ancient ape woke up one morning and realized something was missing. There wasn't a dramatic moment. No celebration, no funeral for the tail. Just millions of tiny changes, accumulating so slowly that no individual ever noticed. Until one day, there simply weren't any tailed apes left in that lineage. And every human, every chimpanzee, every gorilla, and every orangutan became descendants of that extraordinary transformation. What feels permanent today is often just evolution's latest draft. not its final version. Think about the strange chain of events. One mutation, one disappearing body part, millions of years of adaptation. A different spine, different muscles, different balance, different movement. Eventually, hands freed from constant support. Long-distance walking, tool-making, complex hunting, cities, science, the internet. Everything that followed began with thousands of evolutionary steps. And one of those steps was letting go of a tail. It's incredible. The feature you never think about may have helped shape everything you are today. Sometimes, history isn't written in books. Sometimes, it's written inside your skeleton. Humans often think evolution works like an engineer, always adding, always improving, always making organisms more complex. But evolution isn't trying to create perfection. It's trying to create good enough. If a feature costs more energy than it's worth, it disappears. If another feature improves survival, it spreads. There is no master plan, no finish line, no perfect design. Just billions of tiny experiments running continuously for nearly 4 billion years. Your body isn't perfect. It's simply the latest successful version. And somewhere deep inside it, hidden beneath muscles and skin, rests a tiny reminder of the ancestors who once swung through forests with tails behind them. So, look behind you one more time. There's nothing there. At least, nothing you can see. But hidden beneath your skin, your tail is still telling its story. Every time you sit down, every time your lower back moves, every time a human embryo quietly grows and then reshapes its tiny tail, your body remembers an ancient past your mind never experienced. The strange truth is, humans didn't simply lose their tails. We traded them, not for one single ability, but for a completely different way of living. A body built for balance without one, hands free to create, a spine designed for a new future, and a story stretching back millions of years that most people never realize they're carrying. The next time someone asks what makes humans different from every other animal, don't start with intelligence, or language, or civilization. Start with what's missing, because sometimes the most important part of your evolution is the part that disappeared. Before you leave, I'm curious about something. If evolution gave humans one ancient ability back tomorrow, what would you choose? A tail, night vision, the ability to regrow lost limbs, or something else entirely? I read every comment, and many of the best documentary ideas come directly from questions like these. Because the human body is filled with mysteries, and this is only one of them. I'll see you in the next story.